Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should. And please check out insightsinsound.com for a full list of our podcasts and YouTube series.
And big thanks to our sponsors, Mackie, Roland, Mojave Audio, Ozbot.
Okay, we're officially starting. Okay, welcome to all of you, including those of you who are still walking through the door. My name is Daniel Liston Keller. I am chair of Audio Engineering Society LA and the host of the Insights in Sound podcast. And my guests, starting on the far end, Kathleen Wirt.
Hi.
Leslie Ann Jones. Ross Hogarth. And Suzy Shinn.
Suzy!
Yeah.
We're here to talk about basically career paths, and we all, and probably most of you, share the same kind of career path, which is kind of falling into things by accident and being called to do jobs that we don't know if we know how to do, and saying yes to it anyway because that's the only way you're going to get ahead in this business. And so I kind of want to start with a few little anecdotes from people. And actually, Suzy, I know that we recently spoke about yours. So do you want to kick it off? We had a conversation where you were telling me about this one particular thing where somebody asked you to do something and you didn't know how to do it. Do you remember this?
No,
Well,
that happens often,
Make
though.
one up.
No, I mean, I think that's how I've done most things in life. Is like I'm terrified. Even like now, even at this panel, I'm like, oh God, I'm so scared. But it's like if you say yes, you have to figure it out. That's how you learn. That's how you get thrown into the fire. And if you can back it up too, go research, go figure out how to do the drum thing, go like this. But like your body and your mind wants to keep you safe. They don't care if you're happy. They don't care if you're progressing. So it's like the answer no keeps you safe because nothing changes, and that yes is the only way that it's like, oh, you don't want to go show up to the session at midnight that you just got asked to go to? Well, if you do, you show up and you get to work with Katy Perry or whatever, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then that leads to something and that leads to something. I can't remember the exact example I was speaking of, but.
Well, but regardless of the particular anecdote, I mean, I think we all have stories about like being invited to something or being asked to do something, you know, like my classic one is, you know, I got invited to a particular party and I was like, you know, I'm already in my sweats, I'm comfy, you know, and if I had not been urged by my wife to say, oh, come on, get out there, you know, you really, you know, you sitting at home and bitching about things, I would not have met a person that got me signed to BMG to, you know, I mean, these kind of stories, I think. Kathleen is nodding here. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that one thing that we were talking about is opportunities happen when somebody else goes home.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the beginning of your career, many years ago, my acting coach said one of the rules of Hollywood is to go to everything you're invited to. But if you're not going to be great, don't go. You know, if you're not at the top of your game,
Yeah.
don't let them see you like that.
Yep.
You prepare yourself as much as you can. I was thinking about a friend of mine who scores and just starting a scoring career who turned down a job because they were working in a different DAW than he works in. And he was just kind of intimidated and thought no, but he gave the job to somebody else. And the person who got it, I think, wound up scoring like, I'm not even going to say who it was or what the movie was, but something huge that was up for an Academy Award, you know, and it was just like, whoa, you know, and then looking back, you go, I could have learned, you know, that DAW just as easy, you know. It's the talent behind it, you know, and I think if you can do Pro Tools, you can pretty much do all of them. I mean, I know they're different, but
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but it's just learning the shortcuts.
one with the hardest
commands.
learning
Yeah.
curve, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I went through that with, you know, going from Logic to Pro Tools, you know, same thing. Yeah. But then you just actually mentioned something else that I thought was really interesting, which is the brave face. You know, I got thrown into a session my first week at Cherokee, and something was going wrong. I couldn't figure something out. And, you know, there's, as my friend Rick Allen put it recently, there's the client face and there's the face you have inside. And the face you have inside your head is, oh shit, right? But the client face is, it's all cool, no problem, and hey buddy, can you come in here for a minute? Or, whatever it is, you're finding your way to figure it out, right?
So, you have this panel name, the word fear is in it, and fear is an interesting thing for me because fear can be an incredible motivator if I use it correctly, or it can be the thing that completely stops me from doing anything. So, it's a complicated word because I also think fear it only exists in my head. And so it depends what am I going to do with it when it shows up. Because fear has been an incredible motivator, and it still is a great motivator for me because there's a side of me, and I think most of us tend to be or those of us that do this creative thing tend to be somewhere in the spectrum. So for me, there's this somewhat OCD perfectionist that lives, where fear can either be perfect is the enemy of great, but good can also be the enemy of great. So if I fear not being perfect, I don't want to do it. Why am I going to do it if I'm going to be only perfect? So for me, it motivates me a lot to still to this day to show up, but have done some work ahead of time so that I have something to work off of. And I come from obviously before the internet, so I can't, like Suzy was like, I do this. I didn't do that when I started out. And so, I found fear to be the thing that, just to use another simple analogy, well, first off, there's a couple of acronyms that I love for fear, which is either fuck everything and run, or, false evidence appearing real. Because it does all live up in my head. So the thing that I found early on was to use it as a motivator to say yes, like has already been said. And because if I say yes, I'm the guy that wants to and always wants to show up. Because showing up tends to be about 99% of the gig.
It's the opportunity.
It's just showing up. And so all those things I said yes to early on, people go, well, what was your lucky break? I go, there weren't lucky breaks. I just said yes, and those things were hard work that no one else wanted to do. Like Suzy talked about, going and working it from midnight to whenever, or whatever that is. Yeah. So I just find that, as I've progressed in my career, I still use fear to this day to be the thing that's face everything and rule or whatever. I don't know. Find an R word that works for you. But it is a motivator. It's something that motivates me. And then I got to do some pre-production or whatever might be the details, devil's in the details part of it. So it's an interesting thing, because if I have a favorite Dodgers hat and I throw it over the wall of I got to go get it, I'm not going to just toss it over the wall and go, okay, screw it, I'm not going to go get it. I'm going to find a way to get over that wall and go get my favorite Dodgers cap, and then how do I do that always is the devil's in the details.
One thing that you mentioned is fear, and fear is really, in a certain way, it's anticipating a future that we have no control over. Right. We only have control over our responses to what happens. And that, I think, is the big thing right there, is you can be afraid all you want, but that's not going to really help you respond. We only have control over what we do once we face that situation. Leslie's looking at me very...
No, I'm just listening to you.
Okay. Why listen to me?
Well, and what Daniel's talking about is the acronym Future Events Already Ruined.
Yeah.
Ooh, now there you go.
So that's the other side of fear.
Are you like an acronym freak?
I like acronyms.
I like that.
I do like acronyms.
Dude.
I can tattoo them behind my eyelids, so when I blink, I see them.
I love it. Yeah. No, but and actually, Leslie, you and I talked about this too, because you got thrown into a few things early on without really being clear on what you were doing.
Well, I've been trying to think of what to talk about on this panel because there's just so many things that I could bring up. I'm self-taught in everything I've done in my life, whether it be playing guitar. I mean, even though I came from a musical family, I was a self-taught guitar player, a self-taught singer, a self-taught recording engineer and producer, a self-taught winemaker. There are so many elements of fear in all of that, but there's also some realization of kind of what you can do and what you can't do. And I think that there's a difference between, jumping in and saying yes and trying to figure out later and just trying to act like you know everything when you really don't. Yeah. And there's, it's hard to recognize that difference. The people who think they know everything and can just, they tend not to learn from other people and tend not to be able to put themselves in situations where they can learn. Whereas those of us that kind of went into situations where we didn't feel like we knew anything, you have to have some confidence that you can figure it out.
Yes.
The person you referenced who with the DAW, I really know nothing about Pro Tools except how to get myself into trouble and I have to call somebody. I mean, but I grew up in a world like Ross where we, grew up in a different way with different equipment. I can certainly apply everything I know to what is happening now. But I also know enough when to, surround myself with people who know a lot more than I do. That doesn't make me any less than what I am, but it just makes me smart enough to know people.
I think that's a big point right there is, we never want to be the smartest person in the room. At least I sure don't, I love the idea that I'm surrounded by people who, I can call somebody, I can ask somebody something. And to your point, those people you're referring to who know everything, not only are they closed off from other people, but they're not the people that anybody else wants to work with.
Yeah. I think in my in my career, I can point to two. Well, there are so many parts of my career that were kind of breakthrough moments for me. And a lot of it was just saying yes, like Ross said. But my first job in a studio I got because I wanted to learn more about producing, about engineering records, about the technical side, because I wanted to be a producer and a manager. I never thought I would actually be a career engineer. But putting myself in that position, and then someone, it was at ABC Recording Studios, my first job was making tape copies. And then there was an assistant engineer, there was a project and their schedule changed, and the assistant engineer did not want to change their schedule because they had to drive from wherever. I mean, that was in LA many years ago, and it was still tough to get around. But they didn't want to change their schedule to accommodate the client's schedule, and my boss who ran the studio was asking if anybody wanted to do it, and I raised my hand. Now, I've never been an assistant engineer, but I raised my hand because I saw the opportunity. And I've told the story many times, so if you have heard it before, I apologize. It was a French singer and an engineer who I admired, and I got to assist them. We had the first automated console in Los Angeles, and so I found myself, the engineer would ask me questions about how to do things, and I wouldn't really know, and so I kept saying, excuse me, and I'd run out to the tech shop and ask them the question, and I'd come back into the studio and I would just point and I'd say, well, try that, And the engineer must have thought I had a terrible bladder problem because I was always excusing myself to leave the room. But I was lucky enough to have, develop mentors on the tech staff that were, more than willing to help me succeed. And that was a huge leap for me to, I think that was my, other than asking for the job in the first place, I think that was probably my first instance of being challenged and just saying yes and trying to figure it out as I went,
That was, that's been one thing that I've experienced, and I think it's probably universal to a lot of us, is that if you're not afraid to ask for help, there are always people there who want to share knowledge with you. They're dying to share knowledge with you because that makes them feel good also. That makes them feel like, oh, I can contribute some knowledge to you. And so if you're not afraid to admit that you don't know, a lot of times that works to your advantage, because, there's this old saying that I love about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is this state of mind of, I have no idea what I'm doing, and people are going to figure it out. They're going to know. They're going to figure out that I'm, And if we flip that and instead have the state of mind of, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out, makes all the difference in the world. And if you're willing to ask the questions, there's always an opportunity to learn.
I decided a long time ago that it didn't really matter why somebody was giving me the answers, whether they just wanted to hear themselves talk and act like they knew everything, or whether they truly wanted to help me. It didn't really matter.
Getting the answer?
I don't care why somebody what their motivation is.
Yeah.
What I care about is the information.
Exactly.
And what I care about is wanting to get it from them. I'm still going to like the Andrew Watt thing and the sound wave thing yesterday, and just learning an incredible amount. That's one of the things this conference is so energizing for me, and I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think it's a real lesson, and don't be so concerned about what somebody's motivation is. Just be concerned about your wanting to get the information and being open to it.
I think on the flip side, I know for myself, when I go into a studio with a young, like say, whatever, assistant engineer or whoever, the first thing that I want to know, or basically lay down the groundwork, is don't tell me you know something that you don't know.
Oh, that's the worst.
Good.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Because there's so much I don't know, and that that's kind of the piece of the pie, right? They say that when you become wise, you realize that the slice of the pie of what you don't know is so much smaller than the piece of the pie of what you do know, and all that gives you opportunity to learn. But I'll ask an assistant engineer sometimes, can you plug something into an insert or whatever? And then I just see them lurched over the patch bay, time just stops.
Armpits wet. Yeah.
All air has sucked out of the room as that person is looking for the insert point or whatever that they don't know where it is.
No.
And I have to go, you don't know where that is, do you? And then they're trying to cover. And I learned really early on, because as Daniel said, and as a lot of us, our mentors and the people that taught us they were forgiving but unforgiving. The one thing they wouldn't put up with me was that thing, which is when I was covering for my lack of intelligence about something. And it wasn't that I didn't want to know, I just didn't know. So the way you learn is by admitting that you don't know, but it's how you carry yourself in that. Yes. It's a big piece of this business is, I got to give someone security in the fact that they're, at the end of the day, they're going to get a result. And Suzy knows this better than anybody. You don't get called a producer because you are you don't produce anything,
Yeah, no, for sure.
You have to produce something. And you're a songwriter when you write a song, not because you want to write a song and then you call yourself a songwriter. And that's a great place to come from, to be the aspiring. And it's funny because before I was a producer, I created a production company literally called Desiring Productions. I'd give him my card, and Tony knows me from this, I was a roadie. And as a roadie, I got off the road and I got into the studios, and I then was working as an engineer. But I wanted to produce, and I was desiring production. I was desiring producing, so I created a business card called Desiring Productions because I was desiring productions. And they'd look at this and they'd laugh and they go, "Is this for real?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, because I'm desiring productions." and that carries a lot of cred because then people were like, "Wow, this guy is actually desiring productions. Maybe we'll let him produce us."
So Ross, in that case, where do we stand now with your production company called Hoax Productions?
Oh my God.
Well, and that's true. And then I want to hear Suzy talk and more Kathleen. But that was because my last name is Hogarth. I come from New York. When you come from New York, you get a nickname. If you've actually given yourself the nickname, it doesn't work. You can't give yourself your own nickname. So when I was coming up, growing up in New York and playing sports and stuff, I was hokey, but that wasn't. My friends didn't love that one. And then, like, a hoagie is a sandwich, so you can't call someone hoagie. And they didn't really dig calling me hoagie because we eat hoagies, and that's not. And I ended up being Hoax, Hokes, and or Hogs. And when I started my production company I have now, production I thought was kind of a hoax. If you don't have a song and you don't have an artist, it's like a double entendre. What are you producing? It's sort of a hoax. So I just, as like a nickname from my nickname, it was called Hoax Productions. And we won't get political, but that word has been misused now, and everything is a hoax. And I almost shut it down because of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it bums me out. But we won't go there. We'll just say that I am very political, and it does. But
no.
So yeah, if you look at my Facebook, you'll see. But otherwise, we're not going there today. But I do have an opinion.
Your chops about the name because
yeah, and it is. It's a double entendre because what if you don't have an artist and you don't have a song?
I'm gonna make something.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm making. But yeah, for sure.
Well, you've been pretty good at that so far.
Yeah, I keep doing it regardless. Like, it's not gonna stop me. And two, I'm like more thinking about the word no. And we talked about this, but I took this improv class, you guys, and it like you learn the foundation is you say yes and. Right.
Yeah.
So if someone has an idea, if someone wants you to come to the studio, if someone wants you to do this, you say, yeah, I can do that and this, and you like build onto it. And there's an exercise maybe you guys could do is try saying no, and like see how fast that session ends, see how fast you hurt the artist's ego, see how fast your career grows. It's a hard
deal
thing.
Killer.
It's a deal killer.
Yeah, it is.
And then to Ross's point, I mean, when I was an intern, someone was like, "Can you engineer the session?" And I was like, "Yes." And I was like, "I don't know how to do this." And I fucked up the vocals like so bad. The artist was screaming at the studio owner outside of the studio, and I could just hear it, and I was just like, I distorted the vocals so bad. I had no idea how to actually use a compressor despite the amount of school I went to. But I never messed up a compressor again. That was my last time of fucking it up. So in that case, I said yeah, and I fucking bombed it. But then I learned a lesson,
Yeah.
Like the yes. So does that.
I think we've all heard stories about, they got your break because they went out to lunch and they did another mix or whatever. In my experience, you get fired when you do that. I just don't think.
Yeah.
The producer usually does not appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Well, that's the difference there between trying to fake it versus actually asking for some help and then using your intuition a little bit to actually make it work.
Yeah, and maybe you're in a role where you can hire an engineer or hire an assistant, or maybe you have a good network of friends where you can storm text and be like, "How did you do this? What did you do here?" And then they want to help, and they're like, "Yeah, I did this." And just I would answer the same questions if I can help anyone too.
I'd like a lifeline, please. Yeah.
A constant lifeline.
And it's also very powerful too. I'll just throw this out there because I started my career by saying yes to everything. To everything. And it worked. Like literally there was so little of me to go around because I was spread so thin. And I did that up to a point where finally, and I'll just say there came a point where as a father with a family, starting to say no became really important to not say no when I meant or not say yes when I meant no.
Yeah.
And actually not fill up the cup so full that there's nothing left. But that took time for me to get there, and in a very specific way. It was like my kid was little, and Fogarty was wanting to work on Halloween, which we got coming up, and I had given away so many Thanksgivings and Christmases and Halloweens and all these things I was like, I'm not giving away a Halloween. I'm only going to get 10 of these maybe with my one kid, or 11 maybe. So I'm not going to work on Halloween. I told him, no, I don't work on it. And he was like upset at me, and I explained to him, I said, I'm only going to get 10 of these in the life. Just let's think back 10 days. It's like a blink of your eye, let alone 10 years. And he actually respected that, and I gained more respect out of the relationship. But so there's this balance. I think when we live in black and whites, we get really screwed up because there's a gray area to all this stuff, and then there's that thing, which is like when you say yes and you don't know it, you're going to have to figure it out. But, and I just remember being asked to mix the first record I ever mixed. And, they say, well, you ever mixed a record? And I go, oh, yeah. And then it was like, well, I trust my ears. That's what I trust. I trust my ability to do this. And that's what made the difference. Because in the end, what is our most valuable asset, besides our intuition and other such, some metaphysical things? It's our ears. So you have to trust something. And I've trusted my ears basically my whole career. I just say the speakers never lie. The room lies. Everybody lies, tries to convince each other something's good or whatever. But man, if you close your eyes and push play, the speakers never lie, really.
Yeah.
Unless they're a really bad speaker. No.
Can I say something about, we're talking about being given an opportunity and saying yes, but I think the things that we're most scared of is when we make the opportunity for ourselves, and that's a bigger jump than saying yes to something that someone asks you to do.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure everybody in this room, I don't know what kind of advice you got from your parents, but working in music is, most parents are kind of trying to steer you somewhere else. And I think that I counsel a lot. We have a great internship program at my studio, and I have these conversations more than most people about people being afraid, people wanting to take a jump. And one thing that people moving to Los Angeles to try to make a career happen, and I know now you can have a studio of your own anywhere, and I do give a talk about owning and operating your own studio at like a business. But what I have said most often is that if you're a big fish in a little pond, you might be a big fish in a big pond too, and you owe it to yourself to find out. So if you're a young person starting out, I always tell them to do the scariest thing that they want to do first, and see if you really want to do that or not. You might not want to,
Yeah.
People get in and they find out how many hours they have to work, that nobody else wants to go home,
Yeah.
that there is no other life.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to do that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But now you're talking about trusting your ears, Ross, but there's also, I think, and all of us are kind of living proof of that, trusting your ability to figure things out. We're all, as artists, we're all autodidactic to a certain point, and every single one of us has had to.
I was saying the
Big
same
word
thing.
moment.
Big word, self-taught.
Big word moment.
Big word alert. We're all self-taught, and we all figure things out by figuring it out. Basically, either, before we had the interwebs, we still had to figure things out. And yes, sometimes it was calling a friend. Sometimes it was going to the library. Remember those? But whatever it was, I'm grateful that I have as many friends as I do, because I can call almost anybody for almost anything if I don't know something. But that's really, isn't that what it's all about? We call it networking now. Before we called it networking, we just called it calling a friend, asking somebody.
See, I got to admit what I don't know. I had to look it up. Autodidactic.
Okay, I'm a word nerd. I'm sorry.
Self-taught person. I guess I'm autodidactic.
See, you just demonstrated autodidactic.
I feel so completely autodidactic right
See
now.
that? Look at that.
Leslie Ann, you just talked about being autodidactic. Did you guys know you were so autodidactic?
Okay. No, seriously. How many people in this room did not know that word? I just want to say. Okay, well, see that? You have now come away from here with some knowledge that you didn't have before. Autodidact.
So we're not really self-taught. The dictionary just taught us. How does that fit in? I just don't know.
But really, seriously, I think the whole idea of having a little bit of confidence in yourself to say, okay, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of the part and parcel of how we got where we are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Big yes.
Just shut everybody up. Oh my God.
That was the moment where it's not really a no, but we all said yes, but there was...
And the combo ended, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, question.
Just an observation, because the story you just told, Suzy, is
You want to use
Yeah, why don't you use the mic
Go
there?
to the mic.
Step up to the microphone, even though it's not officially Q&A time or anything.
Oh, we love you.
We like cues.
I'll keep it quick. So, just to kind of point out something that just happened that I observed is, we're all talking about never say no, and then Suzy, you talked about the story where you messed up the mix on the vocals, which is the thing that is in the back of all of our minds.
My worst fear.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I
Yet you're
imagine
still
we've
here.
all had that kind of experience at different parts of our lives and our careers. So it's finding that balance between knowing when to say yes, go to the party, and when to say no because you're not at your best. And that's
Yeah.
that.
I have a personal motto: start ugly, but start. And I mean, I do a podcast. I just dropped episode 188. I cannot tell you. Thank you. I cannot tell you how scared shitless I was to do the first one and the first 10. And then even now I look back at the first 10 that I did and I'm like, oh shit, did I say that? Oh my God, and because I've learned over time how to be a better host, a better interviewer, when to shut up, things like that. And I'm still learning. And we're all still learning. I mean, isn't that's the theme here too. We're all still learning. And
So
you don't start.
there's this quote that I usually mess it up, but it is somewhat tattooed behind my eyelids. But I put it on my phone a while back to use it because it's one of the greatest quotes about commitment. Because that's the thing that for me, when I do say yes to something, then I'm all in. I'm fully committed. Until I say yes, there's that, yeah.
Yep.
And this quote just dials it right in, and it's so much better than I can actually say it. And I'm just going to read it. It says, until one is committed, there's always hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising to one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no one could have dreamed would have come their way. Whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Yeah, I like that.
So that moment of commitment for me is when I, get off the hesitancy, the chance to blame someone, draw back ineffectiveness. I can't blame anyone now but myself. And it's that thing that then I think we all know that moment when we do commit, regardless of whether we know it or not, or they have enough songs to make the record, or I know this piece of gear or whatever. I'm going to figure it out because I'm so committed. And then when I don't get to the finish line the way I want it, I go back to the beginning and look at who I was, the guy that started. Because if the guy that started it was a little off center or something, then I got to take a look at that. And in the end, It's just the doing of it that's kind of one of the crucial things for me. But getting that commitment is is like the mission statement or something for the way I might, and that quote has been sort of the wind behind me in a good long bunch of time, because it's by a guy named Goethe, Goethe.
Yeah. It's once you step out on that diving platform, are you going to climb back down, or are you going to take that jump, basically?
You got a question?
Oh, yes.
Hello, my name is S. Follow-up question about the sort of worst fear coming true.
You just want horror stories, right?
Well, no, I'm wondering the recovery, like if you can speak to kind of how you recovered from that.
I've heard this story of like, pro skateboarders, pro athletes, you fall off the skateboard, you get a concussion, you're in the hospital, you got to get back on the skateboard the next day. So I was in the studio the next day, probably engineering something else and fixing something. It's just like, it never occurred to me being like, I'm scarred, I'm stuck in frozen mode, I can't ever do this again. It was just like, no, I don't know what else to do, so I'm back at the session the next day, or back at this, or doing some kind of other work related. I fucked up really bad, and I kept going, and talked to the studio owner at the time, and they would make sure it wasn't ever going to get messed up again. And I learned my lesson too. But it's like, if you let that I think scar you and prohibit you, then you're stuck in that that not growing phase, where it's just okay, break it down in small steps of what did I fuck up? How did I fuck up? How can I not fuck it up? Can I ask someone? Can I talk to people? And just, I think it makes it easier to say yes when you just break it down, small, okay, yes, I blew up the entire session, but oh, I see I had the input too hot on the compressor. Mm-hmm. What is a compressor? Whoa, oh, okay, I see now. I'll always take the compressor out and check the gain structure, the gain first. There you just broke down this, you blew up the session, you ruined and you're just okay, here's where I went.
Here's how I learned about gain structure.
Here's how, yeah. And it's just and same with as Kathleen said, go moving to LA. Maybe it's really terrifying and scary. Maybe you're just I'm gonna sublet a place for 30 days. Maybe I'll just start there. Maybe I'm not packing up my whole life and starting over. Maybe I'm just the summer, this. That I think can get you out of that. Yes, in little starts. Oh, you want to write a song? You're not going to write the greatest song of all time today. You need to put under that pressure. Maybe you just start playing guitar in front of the computer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something that I work with a lot of my neurodiversity sessions on, is the idea of just break it down to, it's called being present in the moment. It's awareness of maybe I'm not going to write a song today. Maybe I'm just going to sit down at the piano and listen to the timbre of this one note, or just play around with one synth patch or something like that, just to do something. Because if I don't put those pressures on myself that I have to write a song today, then maybe I'm going to write that song because I'm not pushing myself to reach that goal.
Yeah, and same with, I can never fuck up again.
I erased a vocal on my first session, okay? I'm here to tell you. And I was terrified to walk into the studio the next day. This was my first session at Cherokee Studios, okay? So, I was the second engineer, and I really fucked up big time. And I walked in the next day expecting to be fired. And I wasn't.
Hey, if you design plugins, Suzy's open to that vocal sound in the future. If you're just,
Right, exactly.
Or preset, it's there if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Overdrive.
Exactly, I love it.
It's now it's art.
It's now really cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Hey, I've heard it on records.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Safari plugins.
Yeah.
If we have any, I'm happy to open it to Q&A if
Yeah.
bring it.
Come on.
We got a line there. Bring it on.
I kind of want to get to the root of the observation from earlier and what I've been thinking about, because we've heard both, say yes to things and take opportunities and figure it out along the way, but also don't say yes to things you don't know how to do or make it seem like you know how to do something that you don't know how to do. How do you find that middle ground of accepting opportunities and figuring it out versus not saying yes when you don't know how to do something?
Being humble and saying, yes, I'll say yes, but...
Leslie Ann, no, she's
Bring it on.
poised.
Please.
Well, you're right. There is a fine line between that. And, when this was, of course, many years ago, and I was an assistant at Capitol Studios. And many of us who were assistants there would go back and forth between being assistants and being engineers, and being assistants and being engineers. And of course, you learn a lot of humility doing that. You learn to kind of be the best at what you can in the position that you're in that day, and not wish you were doing something else. And I learned then, this was when syncing digital machines and analog machines were happening. I kept a cheat sheet, literally, about how to plug things in, what to look for, because it wouldn't happen every single day. It might happen once a week, it might happen once a month. And to have to learn how to do that, relearn it every time, I just had to keep this cheat sheet so that I would understand the proper steps. It was around when MIDI first became really popular and composers were doing that. And I realized, I don't need to know MIDI to do my job as an engineer. I could hire somebody. If I were producing something, I could always hire somebody to do MIDI. I don't need to learn that in order to be effective in my job. So I think part of that is understanding what your limitations are, the fact that you don't have to know everything, that there are other people around who can do that, and so there is that fine line, and I think you have to determine that yourself and know what you think you can learn more about in order to do what somebody's asked you to, and what you realize you really either can't do, or it's just not going to be a part of what you need to do in the future. I think only you can really decide that. Nobody can really tell you what that fine line is. For all of us, it's been different. But, those are just kind of some examples from my experience.
And I think, to your point, it's different at different times.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm producing opera records now. I mean,
right.
If you had told me 10 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have thought you were crazy. But again, I'm self-taught. And there is something, Andrew Wyatt was saying this earlier today when he was talking about working with somebody like Paul McCartney. You have to assume that you're bringing something and someone is asking you to do something because they think you can do it. And there's a certain amount of comfort in that. I see Suzy nodding her head. There's a certain amount of comfort in someone asking you to do something because either they want to spend that time with you because it's very intense in the studio, they think you can do it, they just, it doesn't really matter why, but they have that confidence in you. And I think that you have to take that as the fear that comes with that, oh my God, I have to produce an opera record, and knowing that they want you to do that.
That's a privilege.
They want to be with you. Yeah. They think you can do that. The fact that you don't think you can really is immaterial at that point. You just have to figure that out. So I think a lot of it comes from who asks you and who has the confidence in you, and then really kind of having that confidence in yourself.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Jay Kirsch. I'm with QSC, and so I just want to point a couple things out. It's if you're working in the creative field, like we do, doing music and entertainment, and that includes all of STEM for that matter. If you work in science or technology or engineering or mathematics, all of those require learning. And if you already know how to do all the stuff that you're doing, then you probably have a very boring job. So it's always good to have a job and have requirements where you have to learn something. Otherwise, you can find someone much cheaper that just already knows how to do this particular task. And then for me in my career, I've been doing product development for over 25 years now. But if you were to go to each one of the jobs I've had and go 2 years in from starting that job and take the stuff that I'm working on and then take that back 2 years to my job interview and ask me those questions, do you know how to do this and this? And I would say no. It's like, no, it's just part of your job to figure that stuff out and learn that stuff. So,
well, to your point, everything we do is this mix of left brain, right brain. Mm-hmm. That's part of what we do. I mean, we're using technology to create art. So every single one of us has to be sort of torn between those two modes, I think. Yeah, it's a good point.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. My question is about how to balance working with people who are really creative and then also being able to make money. I've recently discovered that my very favorite, I know, the question everyone wants answered, but I'll ask it because we're here and why not? I've discovered recently that my very favorite thing to do is to find and work with artists who are insanely talented but don't necessarily have a lot of money. And the way to...
Sorry.
I know.
How you start, Ethan.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, I have been, balancing working with some paid clients and then also all these people who I just want to develop. I was wondering if any of you had some insights on navigating that, because literally it's been the past 2 weeks, an incredible past 2 weeks of working with insane artists who are incredibly talented and saying yes to everything. But, I'm trying to figure out how to sort of worm my way into making some money and then also keep developing these artists and keep going forward with that. So if any of you have ideas on how to do that.
Isn't that the story of all of our lives?
I was going to say, it made me think of Penelope Spheris, the director, who made the Rugrats movie so she could do Decline of Western Civilization. So you make money on some crap, and then the really talented people, I guess you get a piece of it, right? You develop them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll just say, if you're in it, if you guys are here to try to answer your question and you're here for the money, you're in the wrong place.
Yep.
You just are. I think so. In general, most people doing what we do are actually overqualified to do what we do. But we've made the choice to do it. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I don't want to be a guy that reaches underneath the hood and pulls out the spark plug wires so that I make myself more important when I know how to put them back in.
Oh my God.
So,
touche.
I like the fact that on a lot of levels, I know that, and this is, I'm saying this with full humility, even though I don't get to wear the T-shirt that says I'm so fucking humble, but I do believe in humility, because humility is not when I think less of myself, it's when I think of myself less. And the reason I do what I do, because Suzy, on this stage here, she's actually an artist. She writes songs, she plays. She is the only artist. I mean, I'm a different kind of artist. She's an actual. We are all in our own way. So, and to add to what, we bring something to the table. I bring something to the table, and I know that. So it's not when I think less of myself, it's when I think of myself less. And I love the service part of this gig. I always use the term overpaid. I am so overpaid, and it has nothing to do with money. I've done some pretty fucking crazy jobs in my life. If you've ever roofed or ever had to carry, bricks or any other job other than being in a really nice studio or a decent studio that's air conditioned with artists, we're going to better be grateful for what you're doing. Because if you're not grateful for something by noon, and you're looking at how much little you have in your cup, pour it into a smaller cup and stop bitching about it, because we are so overpaid. So I do this because I love it. That's the bottom line. And I love the challenge too, even though I say I'm overqualified. Give me an artist that is challenging. It's awesome to come out the other side with something. So if you're in it for the money, I recommend do something for money. And they're saying 10 minutes. So that's my answer to your question. Is I don't have the answer to your question because I don't look at it from that way. I look at it like I'm always going to find a way to pay my bills one way or another, because I only have an A plan. I don't have a B plan, and I've never had a B plan because I'm completely committed to what I'm doing. And if it comes a point where someone doesn't want to hire me and I got nothing to bring to the table, I'll find something else to do, because my attitude is like, I am overpaid in life today. And that's the way I live, to be completely frank and honest about it, because this is the greatest frickin' thing to do, is to be in a studio recording music or mixing music or being around creative people, because they're generally, like Jackson Browne's the hardest person on himself I've ever worked with. But he's one of the kindest, sweetest humans as a human. And he's the guy that wrote the lyric, "Don't confront me with my failures, I haven't forgotten them." He wrote it at 19 years old. So we get to work with those kinds of people.
Yeah.
And so that, for me, that's my mic drop on that for me. I'm just happy to be here.
And I always say too, in the music industry, like if you have a backup plan, if your parents wants you to go get the real estate license, go to law, this is the music industry. It is going to be so brutal and terrible and awful that backup plan is going to look so nice. So as Ross is saying, as everyone said, you can't have a backup plan. And for you want to have a livable wage and work, it's like, okay, maybe you have to go get a job as a waitress. I did it. Maybe you have to figure out what sync music is. Can you get sync fees? Can you do this? You never say, I can't do this. You figure out a way. How am I going to do this? Okay, this happened. How am I going to afford this now? How can I keep staying in LA? How can I do this?
I'm curious, these creative people that you want to work with that you don't get paid for, what is it about them that you want? Why is it you want to work with them?
I sort of enter this flow state with the people who I work with. I work so much better when I'm working with someone. If I have someone else in the room, I can create a beat in half an hour and then record them and put it all together and then walk down the street to the studio and record them and have a full song in, 5-10 hours, depending on how fast they work and how fast I'm working. And it is one of the most rewarding things I have ever done. It is so much fun to see an idea come from just something in their head that they had, or some inkling that I had, or some reference that they gave me that they're like, I want to make something like this.
Okay, so then who are the people that are paying you?
I have just a bunch of people who I meet or get referred to, or people who have more money that I have just met, who I know can pay it, aren't necessarily always as rewarding to work with, but at least they're paying the bills.
And it's still in the studio.
It is still in the studio.
So I don't. I guess I would try to encourage you to, look, I've worked on tons of vanity projects, people that come in that just have a lot of money and really don't have much talent. And, but my responsibility to them is the same as somebody who has tons of talent and has mortgaged their house to come into the studio. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets treated with the same respect to me, whether I'm being paid a lot of money or a little money. And what is, I think, more encouraging to me with those people that perhaps don't have the talent is how I can help them. And so I think if there are people that are paying you money, that you owe them the everything you can possibly give them. If you are over here not getting much money or any money and creating beats and just loving it and all of that, then it would be my advice to you to try and take that that creativity and that love for music and quickness and apply that to the people that are paying you. Because those are the people that are probably going to call you again. The guy you're making a beat with or the girl you're making a beat with, that is so transitory. That's going to last for a second. But the lifelong clients that you have that you can actually, I can't tell you how many producers I've worked with who are called producers who don't know shit. And even though I'm self-taught, I know when something's sharp or flat. I know when somebody's playing the wrong chord. I know when the beat's off. I know enough. And I know enough to lean over and tell this guy who doesn't know anything, hey, you might want to tell them to redo that again because, and then he gets, you might want to redo this again. But that's life.
Yeah.
And so I would just encourage you to, the people that are paying you, give them the same amount of respect that you're giving the people that aren't paying you. And I think that will enable you to then work with the people that aren't paying you and be able to afford to do that and develop that R&D and learn something from that and bring that back to the people that are paying you.
I'm going to her tip that she gave is actually, I'm going to say it again so you hear it again. Even if it's my idea and I'm not the producer and she's the producer when I give her that idea, because she's the producer, often the producer or the artist, if you're producing an artist, it becomes their idea. If you have the facility to have the artist believe that your ideas are their ideas, that's when you really become like the winner. Like you get to like Vulcan mind meld those things by and they're never going to thank you for it, but they will continue to want to work with you because they love your ideas even though they're their ideas.
I would also say in that instance that has happened to me. I ended up being a co-producer after that, because they recognized the contribution I was giving. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but the clients that I work with appreciated my input enough to make me co-producer on those records, and those ended up being some very big records, and I was extremely happy to have been credited like that.
Can I add just one more thing? Just one word: gratitude. We are all so fortunate to be able to be in this business, to be able to create something. I mean, okay, we're not curing cancer here, but we're all so fortunate to have spent most of our entire lives working in the arts, doing something we love. I get up every morning and I'm fucking grateful for the fact that I get to work with as many talented people as I do. And no, I don't always get to do what I want, and I don't always get to work with the artists that I want to work with. But even those people who are, as Leslie pointed out, those people who you feel may not be the people you want to work with, they're coming to you. And they're giving you their trust. Man, gratitude, that's all I can say. We are so lucky.
We have this one other question. So.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for being here and helping us through this group therapy session.
Yes.
You want to talk about it?
I am fortunate in that I very rarely have any doubts in my ability to do a job, but my biggest enemy is when somebody's like, hey, I have a number of somebody you need to talk to. This is a big important re-recording mixer, or this is somebody who you need to get to know. Give them a call. And I'm just like so terrified that I'm going to make a bad impression or that I'll be boring or awkward in conversation. And I'm just wondering how I get over that and just open my doors and talk to people like that.
Can I give you the title of this panel?
You may.
Do it. Pick up the fucking phone and just call and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I got your number from so-and-so. And I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've done that. Almost all the people up on this panel right here, I met by doing that.
Well, and you know what? You call up and you say, hey, you have something you want to ask them about, engage them instead of saying, I'm this and I'm that and I'm this and I'm that. You call up and you're engaging, and everybody wants to offer their wisdom or their input.
She has a finger up. I'm going to take 20 seconds. I'll just say,
You?
Never take. Oh, it's going to be short. It's going to be short. Never take a job interview. Only take meetings. When I meet somebody, if I sit with someone, I'm going to learn something every single time I sit. Any one of you guys, if we sat and had a cup of coffee, we'll learn something. But if it's a job interview, there's condescension, there's a hierarchy, and then there becomes this thing where it's like, I want something that you have and that. And so don't take job interviews. That doesn't mean don't go meet people, but just turn them into meetings. And because those expectations.
As peers.
And call, send a text, be like, I admire your work so much. I'm such a fan. Like, I would love to, could I come over to your studio? Could I take you out for coffee or something? Tony Berg, I hit up that way. I was over at Rob Cavallo's studio that way, and I was just like, oh my God. And but there's a fine line, but it's just like, you gotta, if it's calling's too scary, send a text. Whatever you have to do.
Yeah, you gotta take.
I said let's meet up. That wouldn't worry you, right? But
wouldn't at all, no.
Yeah, but the whole thing about the job interview and the
no job interview. Just be like, can I come over to this? Can I come meet you sometime? Can I take you to coffee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you to my panel. And thank you, all of you, for coming and for being here and for being a great audience.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and thank them.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Daniel Keller. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us each week for Insights in Sound.